Welcome to CXMX 3295. I've been thinking about putting my voice in my videos for a while, and I finally decided to go ahead and give it a whirl. Anyways, we have a lot of trains to cover, so let's get right into it. Our first train is a westbound intermodal with an AC 6000 rebuild in the lead, a friendly crew, and a nice K3HL horn. Our second train is an eastbound grainer going around the curve south of the yard to get fuel and a crew change. The next train is the eastbound manifest, slowly coming around the curve to line some switches before yarding their train. Yarding a train is kind of like carrying your groceries into your house. Similar to how you put your groceries away before going to do something else, in smaller yards, they usually have to pull all the way up past the switch, line it, and rinse or repeat before putting their power away. Next up is the eastbound intermodal with two older Union Pacific AC 44C6M rebuilds on the front and a somewhat clean SD70M. The next train is an eastbound auto rack with an old scheme AC 44CW in the lead, which is starting to become an uncommon sight these days. After that eastbound auto wreck, train traffic hit a bit of a low, but about an hour and a half later, we catch an eastbound grain train with a fresh AC-44C6M leading and a repainted Southern Pacific AC-44 trailing second. Next up is the westbound intermodal, throttling up and leaving town with a friendly honk from the crew. About 45 minutes later, we catch a westbound intermodal with a classic low ditch light AC-44 in the lead. The next day, I catch Union Pacific's ZLCG2 with quite a last up in the form of a GEVO leading, a AC-44C6M second, a SD-70M third, and a SD-70 fourth. The next day, I decided to go trackside and catch an eastbound manifest with a GP40-2 sandwiched between a 70M and a GEVO. The next several trains don't have anything super remarkable, so I'm not going to narrate it. But that doesn't mean skip through the video. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. next train is an eastbound intermodal, with an old scheme leader, a 70M second, and an AC 44 third. About 3 days later, I got word that BC Rail 4646 would be trailing on BNSF G-SIO ELP. I patiently waited for it to pass the Santa Fe Junction rail cam, and in the meantime, I made my calculations on how long it should take for it to get from Kansas City, through Argentine Yard, and down to Bazar, Kansas. I went trackside with what I thought would be a 30-minute wait, which ended up being a 4.5-hour wait, but on the bright side, I got to see lots of trains and get my camera settings just right. The first train we'd see would be a westbound Z train, with the second unit having its door wide open. The second train we'd see would be a westbound manifest, with a friendly crew, 2 Jeebas on the front and 1 on the rear. About 30 minutes later, I got jump scared by an eastbound intermodal, with a Dash 9 leading and a rebuilt Santa Fe Warbonnet second and a super friendly crew. Then about 15 minutes later, an eastbound Autorack came flying through doing 70. About 20 minutes later, we got another westbound intermodal with yet another friendly crew. After that train came by, I decided to move about 10 miles south to Matfield Green, Kansas, and try to catch some trains at Pioneer Bluff, and on my way there, I saw another eastbound intermodal. The first train I would catch at Pioneer Bluff would be an eastbound intermodal, and I didn't notice it at the time, but I had the Santa Fe sticker unit trailing second. After that intermodal went by, I was walking down from the top of the hill because I had spotted a good spot to set up, and I see the headlights of a westbound grain train, which ended up having a Norfolk Southern AC 44C6M leader. After that grain train went by, I continued down to my spot and got set up. And about 20 minutes later, an eastbound intermodal came through with an SD-78 leader and another awesome crew. "15 minutes later, we catch another westbound, which ended up being a bare table with another friendly crew. About 25 minutes later, the BC Rail Blueberry came through with its full Canadian National lash-out. As I was walking down from Pioneer Bluff, I saw a westbound manifest through a gap in the trees. On my way home, I saw a green signal for an eastbound on the BNSF La Junta sub in Strong City, Kansas. I decided to wait around to see what it was, and I'm certainly glad I did, because it had an H1-9 trailing third, another H1-9 as a mid-DPU, and an SD-78 rear DPU. A few days later, I got word that Union Pacific 1989, the Rio Grande Heritage Unit, would be a mid-DPU on ZCIG-4. ZCIG-4 ended up running a few hours early. About a day later, I got word that ex-Southern Pacific 6310 would be on ZLCG2 as a mid-DPU. This would be my first time seeing it in daylight, so I was super excited. A few days later, I got word that 6310 would be on ZG4CI, and I decided to go and try and catch it, and I ended up catching it, notching up, and leaving town. Later that week, I caught a southbound manifest and got a shaven haircut. After that train, I didn't go trackside for several days. Gotta love high school. But I got word that IG4LV had a GP38-2 at 63 town, and it was gonna pass me in good way. So I was super excited because it was racing board and board stuff, and ended up getting the best photos I have of 6310 yet. The next day, I caught a westbound grain train with an AC 6000 rebuild leading and an S278 second. Then I decided to head home because I had to get up early the next morning to head to Kansas City for a doctor's appointment. And on the way, I decided to stop by the Topeka locomotive shops and the big locomotive deadline, and oh boy, did I see some amazing locomotives. First catch would be a short line of locomotives. Some of the more notable locomotives would be an H1-9, a Cascade Green Jeep, an ex-Santa Fe B40-8W, and sitting a few tracks away would be an old Santa Fe Bluebonnet. On the other side of the shops, I see a damaged SD60 Triclops. After that, I decided to head to the locomotive deadline. And the first catch here is an ex-Santa Fe GP30. Sadly, I don't think this locomotive is going to be around for much longer. It's been sold to LETX for scrap. A little further down the line, we see an H2 SD70 Mac. We also see an ex-Santa Fe SD75 coupled up to the GP30. At the far east end of the yard, we see an ex-Santa Fe rotary snowplow coupled up to a Santa Fe Warbonnet. After my doctor's appointment, I decided to go look around BNSF's Argentine yard, CPKC's Naki yard, along with Mid-America car. The first thing I'd see at Argentine yard would be a former Canadian National standard cab C40-8 that has been sold to Rock Island Rail. Coupled up to the Dash 8 was an RILX GP9. Just down the line, there were some stored Dash 9s, and I decided to go take photos of them. Some of the more notable locomotives were BNSF 965, one of the H1 oddballs, BNSF 749, a repainted fake bonnet, a BNSF H1 hooked up to it, and BNSF 4714, one of the last fake bonnets ever made. After that, I decided to head over to CPKC's Naki yard, where I saw some interesting lash-ups. The first one being a fake bonnet sandwiched between an ex-KCS Gevo and a former Sioux Line SD60. Then the yard switcher came out, in the form of a solo GP20 Eco. Sitting down by the locomotive shops were a line of engines. Leading was a CPKC AC44C6M, second was a KCS Gevo, third was a rare KCS Grey Ghost, and fourth was an ex-KCS SD70 Ace. After that, I headed over to Mid-America car. On my way there, I saw a tied-down local with a former KCS Jeep leading. The first catch at Mid-America car would be the BNSF SD70 Max Snowplow Abomination. A little ways down the line from the snowplow, I see an old SW unit and a wrecked CPKC AC44. Sitting at the south end of the shops were two Metrolink FP59PHs. On my way out of town, I got stopped at a red light, and I caught sight of a former Grand Trunk Western boxcar. About 3 weeks later, I wake up early in the morning to head to Wichita, Kansas to meet up with BNSF Railfanning 1, Wichita Railfanning, WAMX Productions 3829, and BNSF 556. On my way there, I saw a glow of some headlights coming from the train track, so I decided to stop and see what it was. It turned out to be a northbound manifest with an AC44 duo. The next train I would see would be a tied-down grain train at Walton, Kansas. Since I was going to end up getting to the train show about an hour earlier than I needed to, I decided to stop in Newton, Kansas, where I'd catch a westbound grain train. After the grainer went by, I went and looked around the power in the yard, and I was happily surprised to see that BNSF 1693, a Cascade Green SD40-2, BNSF 1648, a Santa Fe Bluebonnet SD40-2, and BNSF 736, a fake bonnet, were sitting in the yard. After I took pictures of the power, I continued on to Wichita. I didn't take many photos of the models, except for a short clip of Norfolk Southern 8103 screaming for some reason. After we all hung out at the train show for about an hour, we decided to head south to Belle Plaine. On the way there, we'd get jump scared by an eastbound auto wreck with a nice lash up in the form of a KCS Ace and a CP AC-44. The first train I'd see at Belle Plaine would be an eastbound Grainer with an SD-70 Ace leader. The next train would be a westbound Z with a nice lash up consisting of 2 H3 Jibos, an H2 Jibo, and 2 H2-9s. About 25 minutes later, we catch another westbound Z with lots of Jibos and another H2-9. "45 minutes later, we catch a westbound intermodal with an H1-9 leader. About 15 minutes later, we got an eastbound intermodal that had another H1-9, this time trailing fourth. "25 minutes later, we caught another westbound with 4 Jibos, and the third one having the BN missing out of the BNSF. About 20 minutes later, we got another westbound, this time with a rare K5HLB horn. After that, we all decided to pack up and call it a day. On my way home, though, as I was passing through Mulvane, Kansas, I heard a horn, which ended up being an eastbound manifest, with a Jivo first, an SD-78 second, a slightly faded H2-9 third, and a fresh Jivo fourth. Well, folks, hope you enjoyed this Halloween special. Thank you for watching. Till next time.